Today, we're going to take a look at the photo section of the TOEIC test. Now, the photo section is the very first section of the test. It's also the shortest test. Here, you will see 10 photos. The photos can be of a group of people, or maybe an object, really anything. Now, for each photo, you will hear 4 spoken sentences. You have to look at the photo, listen to the sentences, and decide which sentence best describes the photo. Now, we don't have a lot of time to answer. We only actually have 5 seconds. Now, there are 3 main types of photos. We'll talk about these later in a different lesson, but there are people photos, object photos, and scene photos. Today, we're going to take a look at the question and response section of the TOEIC test. Now, this section's questions are actually very simple. You will hear one speaker ask a question, and then you'll hear another speaker say 3 responses or 3 replies. You have to choose the best response to the question. Let's take a look at an example.
When did you get your new telephone? A. It was very cheap. B. It's a cell phone. C. Just yesterday.
In this section, you will have 30 questions. Now, in this section, there's nothing to read and there's nothing to look at. It's not like the photo section where you can look at a picture. And it's not like the short conversation section or the short talk section where you can read the questions and answer choices. Here, there's nothing to read. If you look at the test booklet, it'll say, mark your answer on the answer sheet, and that's it. So this is 100% listening. And you can only listen to the questions and the responses one time. Today, we're going to take a look at the short conversation section of the TOEIC test. Now, the short conversation section is the 3rd section of the listening test. You will hear 10 short conversations. Each short conversation has 3 questions. So that's a total of 30 questions for this section. You have to listen to the conversation, read the questions about the conversation, and answer them. From the end of one conversation to the beginning of the next, we only have 24 seconds to answer. Now, sometimes the conversations are between 2 men or 2 women, sometimes between a man and a woman. Today, we're going to take a look at the short talk section of the TOEIC test. Now, the short talk section is the last section of the listening test. A short talk is a monologue. Basically, a monologue is one person talking. It's not a conversation. It's not 2 people speaking with each other. Now, a short talk can be an advertisement, announcement, a message, really anything. Sometimes a short talk is formal and sometimes it's informal. We cannot see the short talk, we can only hear it. We can see the questions and the answer choices. Those are written in our test booklet. Each short talk has 3 questions to it. Usually, one question, you only have 8 seconds to answer. So, for one short talk, you have 24 seconds. This whole section has 10 short talks. So that means there are 30 questions to answer for the whole section. Today, we're going to take a look at the incomplete sentence section of the TOEIC test. Now, the incomplete sentence section is the first section of the reading test. Let's take a look at an incomplete sentence question. Okay, here it is. You've probably seen this type of question before in school or some other English test. It's actually a very simple question. We have a sentence, and we have a word or a couple of words missing. And then you have 4 answer choices. You have to look at the sentence and choose which answer choice best completes the sentence. Usually, to answer these types of questions, we need some knowledge of vocabulary or grammar. In this section, we will have 40 of these questions. Now, if we can, we only want to spend about 15 to 20 minutes in this section. If you remember, for the whole reading section, we have 1 hour and 15 minutes. But we have 3 different sections that we must do in that time. We have the incomplete sentence section, we have the passage completion section, and we have the short reading section. Now, usually the short reading section is the most difficult. So if we can, we want to try to do the incomplete sentence section quickly so that we have some extra time for the more difficult sections. Today, we're going to take a look at the passage completion section of the TOEIC test. Now, the passage completion section is the second section in the reading test. Let's take a look at a passage completion reading. Here it is. These can be emails, reports, forms, advertisements, announcements, letters. Now, if you notice, there are 4 sentences with missing words, 4 incomplete sentences. Below the missing words, you have 4 answer choices. You have to choose which answer choice best completes the sentence. Now, these are similar to the last section of the reading test, the short reading section, because they're very long and they're usually workplace documents. But it's also similar to the incomplete sentence section, because to answer these questions, we need some knowledge of vocabulary or grammar. Now, usually, to answer one question, we only have to look at that sentence that has the blank in it, the missing word. But for each reading, there will be one question where we must look at another sentence to answer it. Usually the sentence before or after. Now, we have 3 passage completion readings for the whole section, 4 questions each, so there are 12 questions total. Today, we're going to take a look at the short reading section of the TOEIC test. Now, this section is the very last section of the test, and for many people, it's the most difficult section. Now, some of these readings can be very short, like 3 to 4 sentences long. Some of them can be very long, like 300 words. Each reading will have 2 to 5 questions. Each reading subject is a little different. Sometimes it can be about work, trade, entertainment, technology, really anything. Now, because this is the last section, most people are tired, and they also don't have a lot of time. Actually, many students cannot finish all of the questions in this section because they run out of time. Now, in this section, you will see 7 to 10 single passage readings for a total of 28 questions, and you will see 4 double passage readings for 20 questions. Now, double passages are very simple. It's basically 2 different readings as a set. So for a whole section, you will see 48 questions. Okay, now let's talk about how to use this course. Now, of course, you can simply watch the DVD, do all of the practice questions, and it will help you. But if you want to get the most out of this course, then there are a couple of things that you should consider. First, what is your level? Have you ever taken the TOEIC test? What was your score? If you have a score between 0 and 500, then you should watch each lesson 3 times. The first time you watch a lesson, you should use your native language subtitles. The second time you watch a lesson, you should use the English subtitles. Then, the next day or a couple of days later, you should watch the same lesson again, but this time without any subtitles. If you have a score between 500 and 650, then you should watch each lesson 2 times. The first time with English subtitles. The second time with no subtitles. If you have a score over 650 points, so between 650 and 990, then you should try to watch each lesson 1 time without any subtitles. The first time you watch a lesson, you are learning about the test and the best way to do the test, tips and tricks and traps and questions, etc. The second time you watch a lesson, you're reviewing everything that you already learned, and you are improving your listening ability. Now, in the beginning, if you don't understand everything, that is no problem. Don't worry. Because if you continue to watch these lessons using the subtitles and in this way, then your listening ability will quickly improve, and soon you will understand much more of the lessons.